and welcome back to another Doctor Who action figure review. Today I'm taking a look at the latest B&M exclusive, which is the Sixth Doctor and TARDIS set. So before we get into this new variant of the Sixth Doctor and this new version of the TARDIS, let's take a look at the packaging. So we have the new style guide on the packaging, again in this brilliant yellow like we had with the previous History of the Daleks set. Yellow means it's a Sixth Doctor release. On the side, we've got more of the new diamond logo, and much like with the previous B&M TARDIS set, it's worth noting that there is no plastic on the front, so that the Sixth Doctor is basically, you're able to touch him because he's exposed to the elements, as it were. And then on the back of the box, we have a new biography about the Sixth Doctor, and it goes so far as to talk about all of the Big Finish adventures, all of his different companions on Big Finish, even mentioning the Sixth Doctor's appearance as a guardian at the Edge in The Power of the Doctor. And then as a small little note at the end, which I really liked, it says, this exclusive anniversary year release of the Sixth Doctor figure with his TARDIS comes exactly a decade and a half since its first release in 2008, and 7 years since its last release in 2016. So that's how long it's been since we've had a Sixth Doctor figure. And I think it's obviously worth noting that Character Options were the first to do a Sixth Doctor figure in any format. So it's quite impressive to look back on it like that. And then, of course, out of the box, here we have our lovely new Sixth Doctor and beautiful new TARDIS. So let's begin with the Sixth Doctor. What can I say about his outfit? Because I'm sure some of you might be a bit confused as to what is he wearing. You know, I think people say that about the Sixth Doctor's costume on most days, but this one in particular is quite different because it's nothing that has appeared on television, and it didn't appear in audios either, because this is his outfit from The Ultimate Adventure, the stage show in 1989. I was very surprised when I found out that this was going to be the Sixth Doctor being released this year, but honestly, having him in hand, he's actually a really fun figure, and it's an interesting variant of the Sixth Doctor to have, because really, other than sort of waistcoats and neckties, we've basically got all of the Sixth Doctor variants now, like the major ones, because his coat and trousers never really changed other than the Big Finish releases. You know, we had the real-time one, and then we had the more sort of Big Finish cover version that came out, which I think is probably the 2016 one that the box mentions. So this is a very interesting one to have, but I think the colours actually work quite well. They don't clash quite as much as his actual TV costume. And I think the detail is really quite impressive, especially for something like a B&M release, which we know has sort of, on the whole, more limited paint applications compared to other figures that have been released in the past. So looking at the head sculpt, again, it's the usual Sixth Doctor head sculpt. Great likeness of Colin. They've got the light and the dark in the hair there, which really makes the sculpt pop. One of the first things that I noticed as soon as I got this figure was the face has no paint apps on it other than the eyes and the eyebrows and a bit on the lips. The actual skin isn't painted. This is just the base plastic. We've had this a couple of times in some of the B&M figures more recently, but I think this is the first time we've ever seen it on like an actual face sculpt. And it's also the same on his hands. The hands aren't painted. That is just the bare plastic. So you compare it to like the Richard Herndl figure, which is completely painted. It seems quite strange, but this is honestly something that we're seeing a lot in the toy industry. Hasbro do it with loads of their Marvel Legends and their Star Wars Black Series figures, where the base plastic is just used as the solid color rather than applying paints just because it's cheaper. It doesn't do anything to hinder the figure. I think he looks rather good. And honestly, it sort of stops us losing any of the sculpting detail under the paint. And then we get down to the costume itself, this mad patchwork coat. We've got a few of the same colours as the previous Sixth Doctors, namely the red, the pink, some of the checkered plaid sort of sections. But for the most part, it's all new. We've got these deep purples, which make him look somewhat jokery on the sleeves and on the lapels. We've got this black checkered pattern on the cuffs, on the pockets, and on the lapels. These are really well done for the most part. I've got to say, on my Sixth Doctor, the lapel on the right is missing some of the pattern there, but that's easily painted in. And then on the back, we've got the light baby blue with the pink, more of that checkered pattern as well. And they've even managed to keep this sort of like light blue piping around the collar as well. And again, around the pockets and around the belt on the back. I'm really, really impressed with how well the coat has turned out, because I think one of the things that has been said about releasing the Sixth Doctor as a B&M release was that the paint applications were just too insane for the budget of a B&M figure. Things might have changed, but I think, there's a lot less colours on here compared to the usual Sixth Doctor that we see on the TV. And then moving down to the waistcoat and the shirt and the tie. So the tie is just a solid blue. You've still got the question marks on the collar, and then the waistcoat is all white, but you've got these different stripes across the middle. You've got the black, the red, and the purple. And then you've got the yellow buttons going down the middle and the green on the chain. And then moving down to the trousers, again, much like with his head, this is just the solid base plastic in yellow here. And we've got the pinstripes, which are slightly different to his normal trousers because you've got one very solid line, you've got a slightly lighter line. But again, it works really well. And then moving down to his shoes, again, a lot of paint apps here, really. We've got just a standard brown shoe, but you've got that little bit of white underneath before you get to the sole. And then you've got the darker brown soles as well. And then the Sixth Doctor has all of the standard articulation of the Doctor Who figures. We have articulation at the head, swivel joints at the head, swivel joints at the shoulders, swivel joints at the biceps, elbows, wrists, at the waist, hindered slightly by the large coat, and then articulation at the hips to go out forwards and then out to the sides, articulation at the thigh, and also at the knee. Overall, a really lovely looking figure. Is it a strange choice for the Sixth Doctor? Kind of. It wasn't the first thing that came to mind when I heard they were doing a Sixth Doctor set, but I do really like it. It adds an interesting bit of variety to the shelf, but I do hope that at some point we might see a Trial of a Time Lord version of the Sixth Doctor. But of course, in order to do that, and in order to do it really well, you kind of need a new head sculpt for it because there's a marked difference in the way that he looks there. So I can understand why they didn't go for something like that. And like I said, it might have also been a budgetary thing because of how many paint apps that coat requires and the rest of the costume. But overall, a great figure, an interesting figure, and one that I don't think anyone was expecting. But it's a nice surprise and it looks great. And then we move on to the brand new TARDIS, which is a representation of the Sixth Doctor's TARDIS as seen on screen during his first season. I think particularly during the Twin Dilemma, where it's looking very tatty. And this is an absolutely beautiful rendition of the TARDIS. One of my favourites, in fact, because I love the paint applications on this thing. I'm one of those people who really likes a weathered and tatty TARDIS, and this one has a lot of weathering on it, and it just looks great. It's the standard sort of 80s box that we've come to see over the years. We've had a couple of Peter Davison versions recently, and this is the first time that we've ever got a Sixth Doctor TARDIS. Now, you might be wondering, well, why didn't they do the Ultimate Adventure TARDIS? Well, if you've seen pictures of the TARDIS from the Ultimate Adventure stage show, it looks absolutely appalling and crap, so there's no way they were going to do that. So I'm very pleased that they opted to do a proper Sixth Doctor's TARDIS as seen in the TV series. Few things going on here in terms of the colours. There's sort of like a light blue underneath, but then there's a darker wash on top of that. And then it seems to be even darker within the edges of the panels and just within some of the woodwork. It's really, really cool. And then to top it off, they've added this white wash in places. Again, if you look at some of those pictures from the location filming of the Twin Dilemma, the TARDIS looks very much like this. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was the point of reference. So you can see you've got a bit of the white here on the front of the doors. The roof in particular has got a lot of whitewash on it. And again, around the sides, you've got little bits here and there. I think they could have gone a bit further with it, really. I don't know if this is just that my one doesn't have as much as other people's. With these sort of things, there's always some variation between ones you pick up on the shelf. So it might be worth checking to see. You've got the door sign here. Again, that's all smeared and dirty. The detail on the door lock and the door handle, lovely. It's sort of like a copper colour. And again, it's got the dirty wash and the whitewash over the top. The windows are slightly different as well compared to previous 80s boxes. They've gone for a more orangey, sort of pinkish hue in the normal windows. And then the bottom two are the sort of usual colours. Again, if you look at some of the pictures from season 22 and, like I said, Twin Dilemma, it does have that sort of look to the windows in certain pictures. So that was a neat little detail that they picked up. And again, lots of grime built up on the glass. It looks great. The same again on the police box signs. You've got the bright blue of the police box, but a lot of gunk and grime has been built up inside the box to really add a lot of texture, a lot of detail. It looks fantastic. This is a great all-around box that really could just cover you for your Sixth Doctor figures and your Fifth Doctor figures, to be honest. It doesn't have lights and sounds, but it does have the usual mechanisms of the 2 opening doors with the switch in the bottom to release the doors and close as normal. But yeah, honestly, I think this is probably one of my favourite TARDISes. I just love the paint apps on it. And I think really the pictures that you're seeing now don't really do it justice compared to what you've got in hand. But honestly, I think we're probably coming to the end now of how many TARDISes we can see released from B&M in terms of classic boxes. All we've got left, especially in terms of the 80s, is Sylvester McCoy's TARDIS, which that has only been released as a Forbidden Planet exclusive way back when. So hopefully at some point we might see that, maybe even with a new 7th Doctor, possibly with a solemn head, or maybe that duffel coat version that never came out from Curse of Fenric. That would be great. But it would be lovely to see McCoy's TARDIS re-released again, because that is so hard to get hold of now. Overall, lovely TARDIS, really, really great stuff. The 6th Doctor is an oddity, but it's a nice figure nevertheless, and the TARDIS is absolutely stunning. One of my favourites. So thank you all for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed these reviews, and I hope to see you all again very soon for some more Doctor Who action figure reviews.